exhibition which took place in US with the artists from US, South Africa, Brazil and India. And it was on basically to stop AIDS and how art can help this cause. From that exhibition, I selected about 20 images and I curated another show which been brought to India because actual artwork was very difficult to bring for various reasons. The artists were not happy and there was no money, there was insurance problems, etc., etc. So this was the actual show which happened in US. And these are some of the artworks. Like this is Andrea Bettini's famous condom dress. And Daniel Goldstein's shroud. This is Tagra and Thakr's work on sort of flip-flop. So I wanted to basically take it, some of these work to public and not necessarily put in the gallery. So how do we sort of do that? And what we did was we created a structure which can be mounted on an auto rickshaw, which is a very easily available. So throughout India and many cities, this was possible. So what we did was we printed some of these images, and with the bioscope also, because this whole title, it was a kind of pun on art moves, where actually it moves, and it can probably move it in your heart. So we created two different kind of structures. One was this bamboo structure, which I sort of drew inspiration from the dhobi ghats, where you see cloths are hanging. And we also showed it to different places and with the different audiences. And it was very interesting because the kind of reaction you got was very different. Because how people would react to an image of, let's say, Goldstein or Andrea Bettini to some simple photograph of which is directly, it speaks. But it was very interesting the way people reacted, because there were other things which was happening around the show. It was not just the show. And the same show went to Mexico, and luckily Bajaj sells auto rickshaws in Mexico, so it was easy for us to grab those. This is another project which I worked on, and my also search is always, being a photographer, I always think of representation, that how you take a picture and when you disseminate in public domain, what happens. And here I've been working with these people who are, they try and dress up as women. They're very good dancers, of course. Most of the time I sort of allow them to edit with me, and then they also write their narration. And if you see these books, in fact, most of the books which Latika mentions are on the website, and they're all freely downloadable. So it's on PDF, and you don't have to sort of go to a shop. And most of the time, it's not just one day shoot, it's always trying to be with them and how one needs to present. It's the project which I'm not going to show here, which was called Kaya, where it was shown at Max Muller first time. And the transgender community, actually they came and they even designed or hung the show themselves. So how sort of I react or sort of combine my sort of sensibilities with them was very important for me. This is my work in progress, I would say. I've been traveling on the banks of Narmada for many years now. And there is another connection also because I was born in Madhya Pradesh and I grew up in Gujarat. So the Narmada also travels from Madhya Pradesh and goes to Gujarat. And it's a kind of a river which excites me the most, not just politically but otherwise also, because it changes, the landscape changes, the way it grows, unlike Ganga, which sort of starts very small and then it becomes very huge when it meets the ocean. It keeps changing. The whole visually it is very different. So I'm just going to show one small series out of, but this is just to contextualize the river. I'm just showing you a few images. But there is a small village on the border of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh called Kakrana, and half of the village is gone in the water. So what happened was that the half of the village had to shift and the school which was there had to go. So one of the person there created a new school, and these are all tribals, and most of their parents had to move out, and they are migrants into big cities like Baroda and Ahmedabad and Indore, etc. And they are living in this small sort of school where this is one of the rooms they live in, and they work and study there, and they have a small farm there. And interestingly, because most of their homes have gone, they now have only this trunk as their home. So what happens is that in the mornings they shut their trunks, which is put on a side in a classroom. During the day they study. In the evening they sort of open this and it becomes their home again. And so this about some 10 pictures you will see which are from that series. These are recycled trunks, just like their sort of moving life and in a way kind of diasporic life, because they keep shifting from one place to another. So when I was working with them, and I did a workshop where I also photographed them for other things, and they were learning from me how to photograph or how to design or how to just play around with me. During that time I just told them about their homes, and then suddenly one boy came out and said, "This is my home," and then it struck me that I would like to capture their homes.
Parthiv, just a question, the flags, were those already there?
They are all there. In fact, it's interesting also that when I travel, this was a central part almost of India, but whenever we get out of a bigger city and when go to Ladakh or I go to Assam or somewhere, and suddenly this whole nation, representation of Bharat Mata or a flag comes through very strongly, and especially in the school, of course, that they talk so much about India I gave them kind of a questionnaire which they had to fill up. I'm not talking about all that right now because the time is short. Is that few questions I asked that, pizza, let's say. So most of people had not heard of pizza. Or let's say Bhimsen Joshi, they have not heard of that. I mean, they knew Sunil Shetty and Dhoni, of course. But many other things they had no idea of, which was very interesting because they are not that far of big city, but so I'm trying to sort of understand what their vocabulary is and exposure is. Though they are studying in a school in a class 8, class 9, but so little exposure to these things which we think and we take it for granted. But anyway, that's a separate issue. Yeah, but yeah, the flag is all there. and sometime film star. Oil and a comb is always there also, and a soap. In fact, some people had mobile phone, but they don't work there. It's just there. So it tells a lot of things. I mean, these are the last two photographs, and I just wanted to say that it tells many other story, and there are lots of layers to this whole thing. And I normally don't show it like this, but it has been. I am planning to show it in a very different way in these images, especially. Also, what you saw in Koti, or you saw earlier on Art Moves, you got a little idea of how it was displayed. But it changes when you go in public domain and how you sort of directly it interacts. But when, let's say in Smart Museum, the images has come, now back of Hussein, and it has a different place and it has a different sanctity altogether. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting that you define the public domain as outside the museum space, because you drew a distinction between the public domain and then when it moves into the museum. But that's something we'll talk about after Tushar's presentation. So Tushar, who most of you know, was born in Bombay in 1966. He completed his BFA in 1988 from the Sir J.J. School of Arts and his master's from the MS University in Baroda. After spending 2 years between 1998 and 2000 at the Rijksacademie in Amsterdam, he returned to Mumbai and co-founded the Open Circle in 2000 along with Sharmila Samant. Open Circle, which was active for almost a decade, seeked to create for a creative engagement with contemporary political issues through the integration of theory and practice. They organized annual workshops, symposia for artists from India, as well as other chiefly developing nations. They addressed social and political issues in the local manifestations, as well as in the global ramifications. Tushar is also the CEO, the creative divisional manager, the production cell in charge, and the installation supervisor at Unicell, Public Works Cell. Unicell PWC is how you can find it on the internet. Unicell is a proprietary concern of Tushar's that designs utility products for the citizens of today's overpopulated megapolises. The products are thought out as a remedy to the abrasive and uncompromising urban conditions. Unicell undertakes works on behalf of the citizens and or the state. It looks into matters as an entity apart from the two. That is, it's neither a citizen's initiative nor an organ of the state, and neither does either commission it. It's an independent body that identifies, studies, and implements projects of its own accord and funding. Tushar.
First of all, I'd like to thank Gayatri Sana, Vadehra Art Gallery, and Latika for having me here. I've kept my presentation extremely brief. I actually wanted to include some slides from Open Circle as well, but I've been very disorganized, I'm sorry, so I haven't been able to put them in. I'll start with this work which I did in 2002. I'm just going to show about 4 or 5 projects that I've done. And yeah, this is one of the kind of, let's say, it is the first works that I did after I kind of took a break from making art. I took a break from making art for about 2.5 years because I stopped believing in art. And this is the first work that I somehow did after that brief period that I had of disillusionment. This is a work that I did for a show for which I was invited at the Stephen Lawrence Gallery in Greenwich. And what I did was actually, I made these kind of, they're like bookmarks. And I kind of tied up with a NGO, with Oxfam over there in London. And this was actually straight after the Doha meet of WTO. And this work was actually called, Can You Have His Cake and Eat Our Bread Too? I had actually conflated 2 phrases. One is, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And the famous quote of Marie Antoinette, who said, if they don't have bread, let them eat cake. So it's basically about a certain apathy and a certain way of